remember Touchstone Pictures? This was the studio behind Pretty Woman, the 1990 romantic comedy that made Julia Roberts a superstar and grossed $463 million worldwide. This was the studio that gave us Good Morning Vietnam, where Robin Williams delivered one of his most unforgettable performances in 1987. Touchstone produced Sister Act in 1992, the comedy that became a global phenomenon, with $232 million in ticket sales, and eventually spawned a Broadway musical. 3 Men and a Baby? That was Touchstone, the highest-grossing film of 1987 at $240 million worldwide. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? The groundbreaking 1988 film that revolutionized animation. Touchstone. The Santa Claus, the holiday classic families still watch every Christmas? Touchstone. Dead Poets Society. The inspirational drama that made Carpe Diem part of everyday conversation? Touchstone. And Armageddon, the 1998 disaster epic that became the highest-grossing film of that year with $553 million worldwide? Also Touchstone. For over 3 decades, Touchstone Pictures was one of Hollywood's most successful studios, releasing hit after hit that defined the 1980s and 90s. And then in 2016, Disney quietly shut it down. This is the story of how Touchstone Pictures saved Disney from bankruptcy, produced some of the biggest films in cinema history, and why it no longer exists today. By 1983, Disney was in trouble, not just struggling, genuinely on the verge of collapse. Between 1982 and 1983, the company lost $50 million. Films like Tron and The Black Cauldron bombed spectacularly. Disney's stock crashed from $82 to $52 per share in a single year. But here's what made it worse. Disney couldn't make the films audiences actually wanted to see. The Disney name meant one thing: kids' movies. Teenagers wouldn't be caught dead watching anything with the Disney logo. Parents knew what Disney meant, and so did everyone else. This wasn't a new problem. Back in 1962, Walt Disney himself watched To Kill a Mockingbird, a film about racism and criminal justice, and reportedly told friends he wished he could make movies like that, movies that dealt with real adult themes. But he never could. The Disney brand wouldn't allow it. By the early 1980s, 60% of moviegoers were between ages 12 and 24. They were spending money on Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark, not Disney. Disney tried releasing darker films under their name. It confused everyone. They tried releasing films with no Disney branding at all. That didn't work either. At Disney's 1984 stockholders meeting, company leadership reportedly suggested they might abandon making movies entirely if things didn't turn around by 1987. And then corporate raiders started circling. In spring 1984, investor Saul Steinberg came within days of taking over Disney and selling it off piece by piece. The film library, the theme parks, everything. Disney was about to disappear. They needed a solution, fast. In February 1984, newspapers across America announced the beginning of a new Disney tradition. Touchstone Films would release adult movies, films too mature for the Disney label. The strategy was simple: use a different name so audiences wouldn't automatically think kids' movie. The first Touchstone film was Splash, starring Tom Hanks and Daryl Hannah, a romantic comedy about a man falling in love with a mermaid. It had mild adult content, the kind Disney could never release under their own name. Splash opened in March 1984 and immediately became Disney's highest-grossing opening weekend ever. It went on to make $69 million, proof the concept worked. But just days after Splash's release, chaos erupted. Roy Disney, Walt's nephew, resigned from the company in protest. The reasons were complex, but Disney's leadership was clearly broken. By September, the board voted out CEO Ron Miller and brought in Michael Eisner from Paramount and Frank Wells from Warner Brothers. Eisner had a reputation for getting hit movies made cheaply. His strategy for Touchstone? Hire talented actors who were between jobs or rebuilding their careers, people who'd work for less money because they needed the opportunity. After Splash, 1985 was brutal. Nearly every Disney release flopped. Touchstone struggled to find its footing. They desperately needed another hit. January 1986, Touchstone released Down and Out in Beverly Hills, Disney's first R-rated film ever. It opened at number 1, $62 million on a $14 million budget. The star was Bette Midler, who'd been Oscar-nominated years earlier but hadn't had a hit since. Eisner's strategy was working. 6 months later, Ruthless People made $71 million. Then 1987 happened. 3 Men and a Baby, a comedy about 3 bachelors caring for an infant, opened in November. America went crazy for it. Tom Selleck, Steve Guttenberg, Ted Danson. The film made $167 million domestically, $240 million worldwide. It was the highest-grossing film of 1987. Bigger than Fatal Attraction. Bigger than everything. That same year, Good Morning, Vietnam arrived. Robin Williams is a radio DJ in 1960s Saigon. Williams was rebuilding after personal struggles, so his salary was lower than usual. The film cost $13 million to make. It earned $124 million. Williams got a Golden Globe and an Oscar nomination. His opening radio sequence became iconic. By the end of 1987, Disney had gone from 10th place to 2nd place in box office rankings. All because of Touchstone. The numbers were staggering. In 1984, Disney brought in $225 million in revenue. By 1994, that number would hit $4.5 billion. June 1988. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Live action meets animation in ways no one had seen before. Disney characters, Warner Brothers characters, all in one film directed by Robert Zemeckis. $11.2 million opening weekend, a Disney record. $329 million worldwide, 4 Academy Awards. This wasn't just a hit. This was proof Touchstone could innovate at the highest level. Beaches arrived later in 1988. Bette Midler, in an emotional friendship story that made audiences sob. $57 million. The theme song became a wedding and funeral staple for decades. 1989 brought Dead Poets Society. Robin Williams as an inspiring teacher. "Oh, Captain, my Captain, Carpe Diem." The phrases entered the cultural language. $236 million worldwide. Another Oscar nomination for Williams. Schools showed this film to students for years. Then 1990 arrived, and everything changed. Pretty Woman, a romantic comedy about a businessman and a woman he meets on Hollywood Boulevard. Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. The studio didn't expect much. It opened and became a phenomenon. $178 million domestically, $463 million worldwide. The third highest-grossing film of 1990 globally. Touchstone's second biggest hit ever. Julia Roberts went from unknown to superstar overnight. Oscar nomination, Golden Globe win, magazine covers everywhere. But it was more than box office. The fashion defined the era. That red dress, the polka dot outfit, the rodeo drive shopping scenes, people quoted it constantly. It made over $100 million in video rentals alone. Pretty Woman became the measuring stick for romantic comedies. Everything that came after was compared to it. The 1990s belonged to Touchstone. Sister Act in 1992. Whoopi Goldberg hiding in a convent. $232 million worldwide. The music, the laughs, the heart. It spawned a sequel, and decades later, a Broadway musical still running today. The Santa Claus in 1994. Tim Allen becomes Santa. $190 million. 3 decades later, families still watch it every Christmas. 2 sequels followed. But Touchstone wasn't just making family comedies. They were making everything. The Rock in 1996. Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage in a Jerry Bruckheimer action spectacle. $335 million worldwide. One of the most quotable action films of the decade. Con Air in 1997. $224 million worldwide. Nicolas Cage with long hair on a plane full of criminals. And then came 1998. Armageddon. Michael Bay directing. Jerry Bruckheimer producing. Bruce Willis leading an all-star cast to save Earth from an asteroid. The marketing was everywhere. The Aerosmith song dominated radio. The emotional climax made audiences cry. Armageddon opened huge and never stopped. It beat Saving Private Ryan. It beat everything. $553.7 million worldwide. The highest-grossing film of 1998. Touchstone's biggest hit ever. It surpassed Pretty Woman to become Disney's best-selling live-action home video title. People bought it, rented it, watched it repeatedly. Touchstone had proven they could do anything. Romance, comedy, action, drama. They could make stars, win Oscars, and dominate the box office. Meanwhile, they were earning critical respect too. Quiz Show in 1994. Best Picture nomination. The Insider in 1999. 7 Oscar nominations including Best Picture. Ed Wood won Martin Landau an Oscar. Pearl Harbor arrived in 2001 with 449 million worldwide. Touchstone's third biggest hit ever. But something was changing. In 2003, Disney released Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl under the Walt Disney Pictures label, not Touchstone. The film was dark, violent, rated PG-13, exactly the kind of movie that would have been Touchstone in the 80s or 90s. And it became a massive hit. Disney realized something. They didn't need Touchstone anymore. The Disney name could now handle edgier content without confusing audiences. Industry observers noticed another pattern. Films that initially seemed destined for Touchstone would sometimes shift to Disney if they received the right rating. It wasn't about creative vision, it was about brand management. Meanwhile, Disney was reclaiming films they'd distanced themselves from. Nightmare Before Christmas, originally released under Touchstone in 1993, started appearing with Disney logos on re-releases. Disney merchandise replaced Touchstone branding. By 2005, Michael Eisner resigned. Bob Iger took over as CEO. In 2006, Disney made a crucial decision. They reduced Touchstone from 10 to 12 films per year to just 2 to 3. The company cited rising costs and a desire to focus on the Disney label. But the real reason was bigger. Disney had started acquiring entire companies. Pixar in 2006, Marvel in 2009, Lucasfilm in 2012. Disney's strategy had shifted completely. Big franchises, existing properties, sequels, and remakes. The mid-budget original film, Touchstone's specialty, was no longer part of the plan. In 2007, Disney renamed Touchstone Television to ABC Studios. The Touchstone brand was being phased out across the company. In 2013, Disney ended its partnership with Jerry Bruckheimer. He'd been making Touchstone films since 1994. The Rock, Con Air, Armageddon, Pearl Harbor. He reportedly asked Disney to resurrect Touchstone as a full studio for his projects. Disney said no. Touchstone made a distribution deal with DreamWorks, the company Steven Spielberg and Jeffrey Katzenberg founded after leaving Disney. Touchstone would distribute their films but wouldn't produce original content anymore. The label was now just a name on other people's movies. In 2016, DreamWorks released The Light Between Oceans under the Touchstone label. It was the last film of their contract, and it was the last Touchstone film ever made. After 32 years and hundreds of films, Touchstone Pictures ceased operations. No announcement, no farewell. It just stopped. Touchstone Pictures gave us Armageddon, $553 million, the biggest film of 1998. Pretty Woman, $463 million, a cultural phenomenon that made Julia Roberts a star. Pearl Harbor, $449 million, Touchstone's third biggest hit. Three Men and a Baby, the highest-grossing film of 1987. Who Framed Roger Rabbit, revolutionary animation. Dead Poets Society, $236 million and an Oscar nomination. Sister Act, Good Morning Vietnam, The Rock, Con Air, The Santa Claus, Beaches, Down and Out in Beverly Hills, Ruthless People, billions of dollars collectively, hundreds of millions of tickets sold worldwide, 6 Best Picture nominations, countless Oscar wins, stars launched, careers revived, moments that defined decades. These weren't just successful films. They were cultural touchstones that people still watch, quote, and remember decades later. When Touchstone shut down in 2016, it marked the end of an era. The mid-budget original film had disappeared from Hollywood. Every studio had shifted to franchises and sequels. Disney now uses 20th Century Studios for mature content, the same role Touchstone once played. But that blue and silver logo, the one that appeared before Pretty Woman and Sister Act, and Good Morning Vietnam and Armageddon, has become a nostalgic symbol of the 80s and 90s. For millions who grew up then, Touchstone represents a time when original stories could become massive hits without needing to be part of a franchise. Touchstone saved Disney from bankruptcy and produced some of the most memorable films ever made. And now it's gone. Please subscribe by clicking the subscribe button below and comment with any other videos you would like to see.